Hello, good evening. This is UTV Live.
Tonight at 6, mistakenly published. Officers involved in the data breach claim have their names listed online in a move described as a shambles.
We need to have police officers and our staff having trust that their details will be sensitively managed, because there still are risks to police officers in Northern Ireland from terrorists.
Also ahead, as sweeping budget cuts are proposed for education, we're in a cash-strapped Belfast school forced to send SEN pupils home.
The Irish President makes her first official visit to Belfast, but there are questions over whether there will be a reciprocal visit to Dublin.
Plus, the rest of the day's news, weather and sport, including...
I'm in Paris as Ireland prepare to kick off the Six Nations against France on Thursday.
Dozens of police officers caught up in the PSNI's massive data breach have had their details inadvertently shared again, this time on the Northern Ireland Court's website.
Although the names were quickly removed, with both police and the Department of Justice insisting it wasn't their fault, the union representing rank-and-file officers says there are questions to be answered. Here's our crime and security correspondent, Sharon O'Neill.
This is what has caused all the anger. We've blurred out the controversial part, the names of 41 police officers that ended up in the public domain on a court website. For many, it was a case of déjà vu.
This list was posted online but was swiftly pulled down after the enormity of what was out there was spotted. Now, some of those officers are among the many taking action against police over that massive data breach back in 2023, and some of them have very high risk and sensitive roles within the PSNI. One source has described this latest development as a complete shambles.
It comes just 24 hours after confirmation that payments of £7,500 will be issued to all officers and civilian workers impacted by that breach just over 2 years ago, when the PSNI accidentally uploaded their details online. The executive has ring-fenced £119 million for compensation.
Yes, I am concerned. This is the day whenever we're actually responding to the first data breach or the previous data breach, where everybody now has been offered a certain amount of money. But the PSNI have homework to do here, because if we find ourselves in another data breach scenario, that should not be the case. But the details are still to be unfolded, I think, in terms of what it means. Is it a data breach, or what or how it's happened? So I think we just need to do a bit more digging into that.
How did this happen? Well, police say the names were supplied by the legal representatives of those taking the case. The Department of Justice says it took immediate action and removed the public court list. It says court details other than those relating to family proceedings are routinely listed publicly online unless an application is made to the court for anonymity, which the courts has no authority to grant. It is the responsibility of the legal representative or parties to proceedings to make this application. Former police officer, now Ulster Unionist leader John Burrows, has tabled an urgent question to discuss the issue on Monday in the Assembly.
It was an inadvertent breach. This was an inadvertent release, not planned, and those names are out there. It was done without any kind of control. So we need to find out what happened and learn the lessons of it, because we need to have police officers and our staff having trust that their details will be sensitively managed, because there still are risks to police officers in Northern Ireland from terrorists.
The risk, not as it once was, but it's still there. Sharon O'Neill, UTV Live.
Unions have not ruled out strike action over proposed education reforms aimed at cutting costs. The Minister, Paul Given, has come up with a 5-year budget strategy looking at 5 areas. We could see fewer schools and fewer classroom assistants for special needs pupils.
The Minister admits that the changes are controversial, but says that he has no choice because of the exceptionally challenging budget which he's been given. Sarah O'Kane has been looking at some of the proposals.
This unit at Mercy College Belfast, or what's left of it, provides a safe space for pupils who need it. The roof has collapsed, and with little cash for repairs, students are forced to stay at home. More money than ever is invested in special education here. In the last 5 years, it's spiralled from £250 million to over £700 million. The Education Minister, Paul Given, is now proposing that schools are given a SEND budget so they can control how the money is spent, along with reducing the number of one-to-one classroom assistants.
The big problem in the budget is this explosion of need with regards to SEND students. Because if you've got like a 68% increase in the last 5 to 7 years of state-mandated pupils, that would mean I should have 150 classroom assistants being employed within the school. There just isn't enough money in the pot to be able to provide in the way we have been providing previously.
The cost of school dinners has also shot up in price. Cooking and running a kitchen is expensive. Under some of the proposals being put forward, we could see smaller kitchens becoming one big kitchen and provide meals to other schools. The education budget currently stands at £3.3 billion, with a shortfall of over £250 million, a system at breaking point.
What I'm putting forward today is as a result of underfunding in our education system. I've been asked to do this by the Department for Finance. I recognise that the draft budget is wholly inadequate in terms of my department. I want to get more funding into our schools, but I also want to make sure that the funding that we do get is being spent in the most effective manner possible. That's why I've produced this plan for the public to consult upon. But some of this I wouldn't want to do, but that'll depend on how much funding comes into education.
Fewer schools is another way the Minister has looked at saving money, with pupil numbers expected to drop by nearly 13% over the next 10 years. The department is also going to review the eligibility criteria for home-to-school transport. Some parents could be charged for the taxi service. Last year, £40 million was spent on transport assistance. The union NIPSA is concerned by the potential cuts and hasn't ruled out strike action.
Well, next we have to go to our members. We'll be taking advices from them and we will be defending the cuts.
The proposed plans are now out for public consultation, but the decision will come down to the executive. Sarah O'Kane, UTV Live.
The Irish President has visited Belfast as part of a 3-day tour of Northern Ireland. Today was the first official visit of her presidency.
The First and Deputy First Ministers met President Connolly at Stormont, but there are already questions as to whether they will both make a reciprocal visit to Dublin. Rory O'Regan reports.
A hug and a handshake from the First and Deputy First Ministers as they greeted the new Irish President, Catherine Connolly, at Stormont Castle. The weather was gloomy, but the smiles were bright for her first official visit.
Yes, you're here, President.
Indoors, the conversation continued, but at a press conference afterwards, the First Minister made clear her mind is already on a potential trip in the other direction.
I also put it to her that we would be more than delighted to visit her in the Irish at some stage in the future, and I really hope that we get that opportunity to do so. She's certainly very much open for that invitation.
Would this include the Deputy First Minister?
Well, that's what we should do, yeah.
We asked the DUP about the possibility of a visit to Áras an Uachtaráin, but there has been no official response. Later, the President stopped off at Ulster University. She has previously promised to respect differences across the island of Ireland, a theme she explored in her speech today.
All those perspectives and aspirations are legitimate, but I believe deeply that we are made richer by the different traditions on this island. I believe that the history and heritage of every single person and every community on this island has something that we can learn from.
The room here is emptying and life at Ulster University is returning to normal. But for President Connolly, her visit to Northern Ireland continues with a trip to Londonderry tomorrow. Rory O'Regan, UTV Live, Belfast.
Both Michelle O'Neill and Paula Bradshaw say they have not been contacted by the PSNI over police inquiries into alleged misconduct in public office dating back to an Executive Office Committee meeting in October 2024.
That same committee met today and the First and Deputy First Ministers gave evidence to MLAs. Our political editor Lisa McGee reports.
Smiles for the cameras this morning as the First and Deputy First Ministers greeted the Irish President at Stormont Castle. But it was down to hard politics in the afternoon as Michelle O'Neill and Emma Little-Pengelly gave evidence to their Stormont committee. And the two leaders were asked about the visit.
It was an historic visit from Uachtaráin to her, and this morning she's my president. It was, my pleasure to invite her here. Both myself and the Deputy First Minister welcomed her to Stormont Castle as part of her official visit. She said she would come north as her first visit, and she's done so.
I don't share the politics of President Connolly, but I don't have to. I believe in this role it is about building positive relationships regardless of the personal politics of the person who holds that post. I take the same approach, should that be from a President of Ireland or should that be from the President of the United States of America.
This week started with a revelation that police have been carrying out inquiries into a complaint of misconduct in public office by Michelle O'Neill and the committee chair Paula Bradshaw in relation to a previous Executive Office Committee meeting in October 2024. Nobody seemed to know anything about it on Monday. Today began with questions about who knew what and when.
I was not aware at all of any of this. I have not been approached by the PSNI.
I was aware of the PSNI inquiries. The PSNI made contact with me as an employee of the Assembly Commission.
The head of Stormont's legal services was asked to explain the delay in providing information to the police.
So the request came to the Assembly Commission, regardless of the police prompting you or not. We don't know if they did, we don't know if they don't, but all we know is that from September it took until December before that information was released. That's not a question for the police, that's a question for you or your staff or the Assembly Commission.
I cannot comment on the reason for the delay, but it wasn't a delay occasioned by legal advice.
Timothy Gaston, who is still under sanction by the Assembly over his conduct at that October meeting, clashed with the First Minister.
It's about deflection and distraction from the fact that you got pulled up on your behaviour and you got sent out of the Assembly chamber for 2 days.
I'll
finish my answer.
I acknowledged my comment was unjudged and apologised. You're failing to do that.
Do you want an answer?
Tetchy exchanges too with the DUP's Philip Brett over climate change.
You don't have any concern that the A5, one of the signature projects, is not going to be built as a result of legislation that you voted for and that you stand over?
Let's separate out the two issues. I know you're a climate denier.
Yesterday marked 2 years since devolution returned, but today the divisions at Stormont were again laid bare.
Matt Tracy is with us in the studio. Did we learn anything new today at that committee meeting?
Well, there was always going to be media interest, Paul, given the events of Monday and the revelation that Michelle O'Neill, the First Minister and the chair of this committee, were at the centre of these police inquiries into potential misconduct in public office. What was so telling about Monday is nobody knew anything about it. Everybody kept saying, well, I know nothing about it. Do you know about it? No, I don't know anything about it. It turned out that the clerk of the committee knew about it, and because of Stormont protocols, although he told the legal team, there was no more said to anyone. Now, that's all very well, but it has hung over proceedings like a bad smell all week. And the question you would have to ask yourself is, given the fact that the complaint was made way back in October 2024, a year and a half later, this has not been resolved. You would wonder to yourself that somebody either in the PSNI or in the Stormont Assembly wouldn't say to themselves, given who is involved in this, would it not make sense to sort this out as soon as possible?
Now, we've had a visit today by the Irish President, and that's raised the question of a reciprocal visit by the First and Deputy First Ministers to Dublin.
That's right. Catherine Connolly's first visit to Northern Ireland, and it was all very pleasant, as you saw. Afterwards, it was Michelle O'Neill who put forward the idea of a return visit to Dublin. But of course, it's a joint office, so the inevitable question is, will Emma Little-Pengelly go with you? Now, there's history in this. There has been previous visits by DUP leaders. As First Minister, Ian Paisley visited Mary McAleese in 2010 in Dublin. A year later, Peter Robinson went to the President's inauguration, Michael D. Higgins. So there is form for this. Notable in the committee meeting today that Emma Little-Pengelly was talking about building positive relationships and pointedly talked about relationships with Donald Trump as well, knowing that Michelle O'Neill didn't go last year to DC. We don't know if she's going this year. We don't know if she will go to Dublin and meet with Catherine Connolly, but you can be sure she'll be asked about it next time she faces the cameras.
Tracy, thank you.
A woman has told the inquest into the death of schoolboy Noah Dono that she heard screams on the night that he went missing.
The witness lives in North Belfast, not far from where the 14-year-old went missing. Nathan Hanna reports.
Noah Donohoe's mother arrived for another day of evidence at her son's inquest in Belfast this morning. The inquest, which is being heard with a jury, is now in its third week. This afternoon, a witness told the jury that she heard 2 screams on the night the schoolboy went missing in North Belfast in June 2020. Tanya Brown lives at Premier Drive, close to the area where the 14-year-old schoolboy disappeared. In her witness statement, which was read to Belfast Coroner's Court, Mrs Brown said she was in bed reading around midnight on June 21st, 2020. She said it was a warm night and she had the window wide open. Mrs Brown said she heard what sounded like a scream, and it sounded like it was some distance away, adding it sounded like a girl screaming. She said she then went downstairs and woke her husband. Mrs Brown said they both then went into the back garden and stood there, and that's when she heard a second scream, adding she stood outside for about 5 minutes before returning inside. Mrs Brown said she became aware Noah was missing when she noticed messages on her phone from friends the following day and saw a search operation close to her home. The inquest continues. Nathan Hanna, UTV Live.
A small business owner in Strabane has called for the rate system in Northern Ireland to be scrapped and revised. Last week, the Finance Minister John O'Dowd hit the brakes on a revaluation of properties, which saw some sectors facing hikes to their bills.
Representatives from the hospitality industry and the high street were questioned by MLAs on what needs to happen next for a long-term solution. Here's our economics correspondent, Jordan Moats.
Building a business focused on sustainability and transforming forgotten parts of the high street.
We're down here now, since August, but it's been busy. 30 dilapidated buildings in Stormont town centre.
But this business owner found out there's one bill you just can't escape from.
First day I actually opened, I got a bill for £5,000 before we had even a pound in the till. The postman came around with a letter and £5,000 for rates.
Last week's U-turn from the Finance Minister on the non-domestic revaluation process thrust the rate system into the spotlight. Hospitality led that charge and want to seize the opportunity now.
It's a chicken and egg that we've gone round in circles umpteen times on this, and I'm hoping now this will allow us to break that circle. We need to build it on evidence that people feel they'll get a fair hearing, that the model will give them a fair outcome.
With some large hotels looking at bills increasing by hundreds of thousands of pounds, a call now to change the formula used to calculate their bills.
Turnover has risen considerably. For the majority of people, profit has not, and that has to be taken into consideration. So within the framework itself, the methodology, the primary prima facie case is it's based on the turnover model, but the mechanisms behind that we would be very keen to look at.
With help being put in place for hospitality and the high street in England, industry bodies want more schemes to help put in place here.
Is this a pause? Is this a one-year suspension? Will we be back at this in January next year? Where does this process fit in with the Assembly election, which I know is all focusing very heavily in all your minds, Chair? So I think what we need is clarification.
But for those at the coalface, the message is simple. The whole system needs overhauled.
Rates are a massive factor in why a lot of businesses here have closed their shutters. Longevity really needs to be given to a lot of businesses, and the only way to actually do that is to scrap the rate system and revise it and look at it, what can be done, going forward, because it's really not fit for purpose, and it is failing town centre and independent businesses.
John O'Dowd has said he's in listening mode and wants to find a solution going forward. There's been plenty of talking in the last fortnight, leaving a lot for him to consider. Jordan Moats, UTV Live.
Still to come on the programme. Hopes of success in France. We're in Paris ahead of Ireland's opening Six Nations game.
I'm on the red carpet for the latest comedy thriller by Lisa McGee, and she's the creator, of course, of the global sensation Derry Girls.
The first time to look at the headlines making tonight's ITV News at 6:30.
Here's Lucrezia Millarini.
Coming up on the ITV Evening News, the Prime Minister says Peter Mandelson betrayed our country and lied repeatedly about his relationship with Epstein. We'll have the very latest. The government promises more people will survive cancer as they launch a national plan to tackle the disease. And the British pair going for gold at the Winter Olympics as Team GB's ice dance duo. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Six Nations kicks off tomorrow, this year on a Thursday, as the champions France start their defence against Ireland at the Stade de France.
You have to go back to when the tournament was previously the Five Nations Championship for the only other Thursday night kickoff. Our sports correspondent Ruth Gorman has sent this report from Paris.
It's back. The Six Nations Championship is almost upon us, and for the first time in its history, it's a Thursday night kickoff. That's due to the Winter Olympics opening ceremony on Friday evening. Only once before has there been a Thursday night opener. That was against France in 1948. Ireland won that Five Nations game and went on to win the Grand Slam. That would be a huge ask, though, for Andy Farrell's depleted side this year. Many have France as favourites going into this game, but there's plenty of belief in the Irish camp.
I'm massively excited about the game tomorrow. I've had a really good week in Portugal. Prepped well, there's good appetite. Even today coming out here, there's good excitement being in the stadium and seeing it and knowing what it's going to be like tomorrow. I think we've trained well, and I think we're in a good spot.
Ulster's Jacob Stockdale makes his first Six Nations start in 5 years. Once the golden boy as the championship's record try scorer in 2018, he's had a long, hard road back.
It's been a journey for him, really, hasn't it? Like, he obviously came onto the scene and was playing some unbelievable rugby, then a few years through injuries and whatnot and form, and now he's back in there and he's been playing very well with Ulster. He's gotten a couple of opportunities over the last while with Ireland as well, and I'm excited to see him show up and do what he's capable of doing tomorrow.
While Doris has vowed to improve on discipline as captain, he's aware of the threat his counterpart poses and says French skipper Antoine Dupont is the best player in the world.
He's done me several times, you know what I mean? I can think of one particular incident in 2023 where I feel I have him coming up one side of the breakdown and then he twirls and goes around me and beats three defenders the other side. So I've described him before as one of those little fish you try and touch and they dart away from you. And it's true. Yeah, he's a big threat. He's kind of the heartbeat to their attack, and it's going to be a big challenge for us.
The City of Light will light up tomorrow night with one of the most anticipated games in Northern Hemisphere rugby. All eyes will be on the biggest dance floor in Europe. Ruth Gorman, UTV Live, Paris.
And you can see that game live tomorrow evening here on UTV. In football, Larne are through to the 6th round of the Irish Cup after a 2-1 win over Ballymena United at the Showgrounds last night. Meanwhile, in the League Cup semi-finals, Glentoran beat Coleraine 2-1 after extra time at the Oval to set up a clash with Belfast rivals Linfield in the final.
You're asking for players to play for the jersey, you're asking players to give everything they have in their body. Well, you just seen that tonight. You know, they know what it meant to get into the final for our fans, to play against your biggest rivals in a final. You know, that was the kind of the carrot we were going for tonight.
As difficult as it is over the next 24 hours, we have to put this in the bin as quickly as possible because we have an extremely difficult fixture now on Saturday in the Irish Cup.
Most of us are familiar with the hit show Derry Girls, the brainchild of local playwright Lisa McGee.
The next production is about to break onto the screens and it's called How to Get to Heaven from Belfast. Rita Fitzgerald has been on the red carpet.
Excitement is building here on the red carpet ahead of this much anticipated Netflix release. Lisa McGee's Derry Girls, of course, was a global sensation, and this, her latest offering, How to Get to Heaven from Belfast, well, it's every bit as exciting and exhilarating, in fact. It's quite a shift in style, though, for Lisa. It's thrilling yet chilling, hilarious and a little bit dark in places. And it's about a group of 3 friends who embark on a journey around Ireland, a journey of self-discovery. It's also a production that the writer and the cast are very proud of.
I think it came from Derry Girls, actually. I was at a premiere watching the show with my friends from school, and I just had this moment where we're watching ourselves really as young girls, and now we're grown women, and I remember thinking, what would those young girls think of us now today? Would they be proud? Would they be embarrassed, you know. So that was where the idea came from, the theme of the show, I guess, where that came from.
I'm Keelan Dunn and I play Dara. Dara is caring, loving and loyal to a fault.
I'm Sinead Keenan. I play Robin. Robin is a perpetually stressed mother of 3 boys.
She certainly is.
And I'm Roisin Gallagher and I play Saoirse. Saoirse is a clever, chaotic, unfiltered writer who is driving this Scooby-Doo type adventure to find out what has happened.
And this 8-episode Netflix series is coming to a TV near you on the 12th of February.
And we'll have more on that on UTV Live on Friday. Weather time now.
And here's Louise.
After a cold start, temperatures are expected to rise. UTV weather, sponsored by the Grande Rona R290 heat pump.
Hello there. Good evening. It was a rather cloudy and dull day. We did have a few areas of rain and sleet push through earlier this morning. Over the next couple of days, we hold on to grey, dull and cloudy skies. Not very much sunshine, if any at all. Plenty of rain, though, in the forecast as we move through towards the weekend with some brisk, blustery winds. No surprises. Low pressure continues to dominate our weather. It stays with us right through the weekend and into the start of next week. Plenty of cloud in the forecast, showery outbreaks of rain, some of which will become quite heavy at times with those brisk easterly winds picking up at gale force across the east coast through tomorrow. But tonight, to start off, we have light winds. They will start to pick up as we head towards dawn. Quite a lot of cloud around, a few breaks in the cloud. We could see some hill fog. 1 or 2 showers pushing in across the north coast. Temperatures, though, under all of the cloud with the wind holding up at around 5 degrees Celsius. So staying frost-free as we move through into tomorrow. A cloudy and windy start. A few showers once again tracking towards the northwest. Dry through the first half of the day. Then we have rain pushing through as we head into the afternoon. Those brisk winds really picking up along eastern areas and southeastern areas. We could have a few gales around those coasts. Temperatures tomorrow reaching highs around 6 or 7 degrees Celsius. Across the rest of Ireland, heavy rain will push through with an orange and yellow warning for rain across the east and the southeast. Freshening winds picking up along coastal areas with highs of around 8 or 9 degrees Celsius. Rain will continue for a time then into Friday. Quite cloudy and gloomy as we head into the weekend. Showers in the forecast over the next couple of days, some of which will become heavy at times. Temperatures slowly starting to pick up as we head towards the weekend. That's the latest. Bye-bye.
UTV weather, sponsored by the Grande Rona R290 heat pump.
I'll have the next local bulletin at 10:30.
The ITV News continues now with Lucrezia Millarini from Paul and me and the team at UTV. Have a good evening.
Good evening.